whole bunch of positives to having open centers, and that's actually our wisdom centers. We can even make money from those open centers. Like those are our money making places. So for the incarnation cross, it really is like what your story, your myth, and how you uniquely embrace that and retell it. But it's been told since the beginning. Each one of those motivations attract a certain spectral being. So we have angels, demons, gods, aliens, and ghosts. So when we see those hanging gates and they're not connected to a channel, they're called dormant. These stones, in my opinion, and wearing them can help activate them in a more healed state. It's like this ammonite is the gate 53, that malachite's the 49. And you will notice when you are being given these stones, it correlates with the same energy of that gate. The reason why human design came from the voice in the first place was for the children that are coming. And it is said that we are going to see a jump in our evolutionary species. A new type of human is coming on board. People who have autism, they'll have one or both or one hanging in the open center. And that's
Ultra minds, ultra minds, ultra minds, ultra JK, ultra. Ultra minds, ultra minds, ultra minds, ultra JK, ultra.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ultra Minds podcast with JK Ultra. And today we have this awesome episode coming up because this was supposed to happen before this podcast ever existed. In 2022, I had the desire to do this interview and deep dive. And as we know, things happen at the perfect time. So we are finally here to do this, and we have a way better setting and platform to do it on. So today, my guest is a master of human design. And not only does she know human design in kind of the traditional way, one thing that I've really loved about her work is that she kind of goes off into these other areas that I've never heard anybody talk about, and was one of the first people to point out a lot of stuff in my own chart to me. So welcome, Marisha. You guys can follow her on Instagram as Mama Marisha and get information about booking and all of that there. But thank you, Marisha. I can't believe we're finally doing this 3 years after we originally tried to set it up.
Yes, I know. It's such a pure generator pleasure to be here. Like, so excited.
And so one of the things that, kind of some of the directions, I have a lot of weird, interesting questions about it. And I feel like as I'm in my own human design journey now, and I'm kind of planning on breaking down some human design topics, one of the things that I found is that a lot of the information that's out there, unless you're maybe going into some of the textbooks, is kind of like general, and I feel like it's kind of vague. So what I've loved is when I've talked to you is that you really put it into a new perspective or go that like extra step, that extra deep thing. So I'm going to try to avoid some of the general, what everybody asks about and says with human design. I'll probably have a couple questions to lay a foundation, but I'm like, I want to go into the fun stuff, the weird stuff, the stuff that people don't talk about in human design. So I'm so excited to do this today.
Me too. Because a lot of, yeah, like you said, a lot of people aren't really talking about some of the weirder aspects or the hidden things, and it really weaves into the whole story of it. So I'm excited to touch on it for sure.
So one of the more simple questions that I want to start with, just to kind of give a foundation, which is something that I've been thinking as I've been going through this. So obviously, we have these centers and gates in the body graph chart, and some are defined, undefined, fully open. And you've seen my chart. My chart is like fully defined. Like it is such a defined, I've never seen anybody else as defined as mine as I've been searching into different friends and people in my life. And as I'm reading these descriptions, I'm kind of like, all of these descriptions kind of sound like it sucks to have an open center. And that is just seems like that's where I feel like is a bit of a loss in some of the information, because everybody has open centers, everybody has undefined centers. So what is really like, it can't just be that it sucks to have an open center. So like, what is the real lesson and real journey of that?
Yeah, and I'm sure reflectors, if there's any out there listening, are sitting there like, too, because they're all open. And me, I have 2 defined centers. The rest of me is completely open. And it can seem like it's overwhelming, I would say at times. And I feel like when the channeler of human design, Ra, gave this information, he was really speaking to those sides of us that aren't there yet, are completely not self, the not self information, to kind of just like wake us up a little bit. Those little words, those key terms that shock us into like, oh, like limitation. Like we see those and we're like, I don't want to be limited. Or the open center, it's the not self of the emotional one is making those decisions that you regret, or the throat would be not being able to speak when you want to speak if you have an open throat. And it's like, how many people do we see in the music industry and that are leaders that have open throats, that are amazing speakers and amazing performers? So I'm definitely right there with you that there are a whole bunch of positives to having open centers, and that's actually our wisdom centers. And there are texts on the open centers being the places where people typically come to you the most for, and how we can even make money from those open centers. Like those are our money making places where we're open, because that's what people are typically seeking from you, because that's where you've gained a lot of wisdom and information. So there are two sides to it, and I do see how it can be more negative at first with the openness.
Wow, what an awesome answer because for me my open center is or I have an undefined because I still have a lot of like defined gates in my undefined center, but
Hmm.
it's my emotional center, which is so like kind of interesting because I have for most of my life kind of had not a wide range of emotion. It wasn't really until like only the last couple years of my healing journey, of my long spirituality journey of many years, just these last couple years has the emotional side started to open up. I started to kind of feel things that I didn't allow myself to feel, kind of just go feel highs and lows, which I always was kind of more in a neutral. So it was so interesting to me that I was like, that's the center that is like influenced by other people. And I was kind of like, that just wasn't adding up. Or like, say, for example, my husband has an open root. And a lot of the things kind of show that like maybe this person isn't like that. They experience pressure from others or pressure from outside forces, or maybe it kind of seems like they're like less productive in some of the descriptions. And I'm like, he is the most productive person that I have ever met. And me with the defined root struggles with productivity because I'm working on
Hmm.
my own time. Just because there's a dish
Yeah.
in the sink doesn't mean I have the pressure to do it. Just because the
Hmm.
laundry just buzzed that it's done doesn't mean I have the pressure to fold it, whereas he does have the pressure to fold it.
Yeah. And I see that a lot, especially when we see projectors with those open centers, because they are typically guides of that energy. So they can overdo. So as with open roots, I really, they're like a different type of generator to me. They're almost like a projector generator, because that open root is gaining so much wisdom on when to take action and when to not take action. So we do see people who are like, action, 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 because they feel all the action around them. They're so sensitive to it. So they know it's like, at any moment you could take action. You don't have to wait on anything. Whereas us is like, we can feel that there's so much to wait on. We could sit in the bathroom for hours and sit in traffic and be like, you know what, it's traffic. Whereas they're like cutting the line or going off to the side and they're like, screw this. And then they end up finding a roadblock in the way because it's like you were supposed to wait. So they gain wisdom on when to wait and when to take action. And we have that ability to like look a little more lazy at times, because we know that, there's certain times where it's just going to happen. Like I said, 5 minutes before, and I'm looking for the phone thing, but it's like, that's when it was supposed to be looked for. And I found it. So had
And
I
then
looked for it earlier, I may have not found it. So,
right. And so, my best friend, she has a lot of open centers, and one is the G center being open, which is so interesting to me because she is such an individual, such a
mhm,
self-expresser, so like, and it's interesting saying she's very influenced by outside places, and I could see maybe her vibe changes in different
mhm.
groups, but kind of all of us do that. And so, like, that's something that I also sometimes when I feel like as I'm looking at people's charts, I'm like, is this really like what they're experiencing? Or is it like what you're saying is that it's not talking to the wholeness of the openness of that center, of
Yeah.
all of the aspects that come with it?
Oh, yeah, and that's why I love readers will always be necessary, because they're weavers of the story. And when you look at someone's chart and you have a reader that's just looking at those centers and they see an open identity center, and like, oh, well, you're a chameleon in environment, but they've been emo their whole life and dress goth their whole life. And I've seen that numerous times. Well, we're not looking at a lot of those individual gates. And so in human design, there's a thing called circuitry, which you probably haven't quite touched on yet, but each of these channels and gates that we're looking at is a part of a circuitry. And so we have three different, maybe four, don't quote me on that one, but there's three core circuitries, and we have tribal, we have individual, and we have collective. The individual, when I see someone who's got an open G center, but they have a lot of individual gates, you have a lot of individual gates, specifically when I see like gate 1 or gate 10 hanging from that G center, we see these creative, artistic, um, the 38, when I see that one, or the 36, sometimes deeply emo and goth, and they dressed more dark colors and the darker makeup at times, so much self-expression in what they wear and the moods that they're feeling. The individual circuitry is very moody, and so they love to wear those moods. And so when you have a reader that just sees that open G center and they think this person can completely be preppy one day and goth the next day, they aren't seeing some of the moodiness and individual channels that shape that person based off their experiences. So, specifically those experiences in early childhood, they could have seen someone that shifted their mood in that moment and they adopted that personality, sure, but they still adopted it and carried it their whole existence. Like it never changed. So it could have been that they saw someone and it influenced that open G center through their individuality, but it touched some part of their individual nature that they then carried with them.
Wow. And my friend that I was talking about, she does have gate 1. So it is interesting that individuality is very strong. Okay, so I want to ask you about some of these like incarnation crosses. And I know that there's so many different like variations and stuff, but kind of overall, what do you have to share about the incarnation crosses?
Yeah, incarnation crosses. So they're really fun to get into. Actually, when I first started doing readings, that's what I would give first, is the incarnation cross. And I felt like each person had a head archetype. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but in human design, there are 16 godheads that separate the wheel. So you see the zodiac signs that separate the wheel. In human design, they also do the zodiacs, but they have the godheads. And so in my energy, I channeled those godheads in their familiar archetypes. So we have like the godhead, the gate 26, for instance, which is I think it's the part of the godhead Hades, which is in Sagittarius. But that's a Loki gate. So that's a Loki archetype. So anytime I see someone who comes to me and they have that gate 26, I immediately know that they have some sort of Loki connection. And the people who would come to me for readings, they really wanted that archetypal, who's my god and goddess? Who is my deity? Who's my little, who is my ancestor that may have a bit more supernatural abilities than the regular schmegular human? And so the incarnation cross to me is kind of like your mythological story that has been seen throughout time again and again and again. You've seen them. You've seen the crosses of rulership. And I'm saying that because I'm a cross of rulership, so it's just easy. But you've seen them throughout history, time and time again. And now I get to take on that cross of rulership. And what does it mean to rule in my own life? What does it mean to take over in my own energy, take that power back within my own environment? And how does that look within my familial line? And so for the incarnation cross, it really is like what your story, your myth, your little myth and story is, and how you uniquely embrace that and retell it. But it's been told since the beginning of the split into who we are now. They've been told since then. So it is combined of your personality, which is your natal astrology, the regular time that you were born, your sun and the earth, where it was at when you were born, and then 88 days before you were born on your design side, which is said to be your genetic imprint from the physical bodies that you've carried with, not just your soul and who you may connect with in past lives, but this is like grandma, grandpa's is the design side. And that's 88 days before. And that's also the sun and the earth in combination. And those 4 gates make up the incarnation cross.
Wow. And so what about like left angle, right angle? Are those kind of also like other categories that people fall into?
Yes. So the angles come from the lines that we see. So a specific degree from that gate, as we move along the wheel, the gate's going to shift into the next line. So it starts with the line 1 and then it goes to the line 6. So when we get past the line 3, we start getting into a different angle. First, we start with the right angle people, and the right angle people are very invested in themselves. They're very invested in their own karma. My decisions are not really set in stone. At any moment, I could go off the script and really take my life somewhere else. And that's what we see in the right angles. We see a lot of trial and error, a lot of building, a lot of testing things out and doing what hasn't really been done before, but also just winging it. Then we get into the juxtapositions. Those are our 4 ones. And our 4 ones are very solidary in that cross. They are the only ones that have that juxtaposition cross. And those 4 ones are on a fixed fate is what it's called. So really, like anybody who comes into their lives, they're going on the ride. It's a set ride. You are where you're meant to be. There is no, am I on the right path or not? You're on the path. It's the path's happening. And whoever's on there with you is on the path. And so then we get into the left angles, and the left angles are really cleaning up what the right angles fucked up. So the left angles are here to mold that story into a lesson that the right angles brought forth. So they're seeing all these decisions being made, and they're able to kind of represent the message of what shouldn't be and the guidance of what should happen in the future. So the 6 lines we see are really seeing what is going to happen in the future. They are the role models. They are the ones that are able to sense spirit in everybody. They are the potential seekers. They can see where someone may be misguided. We see a lot of therapists with 6 lines, a lot of professors. Like, these are people who have gained so much intelligence from just living life. And then we see our 5th lines, who are our heretics. They are here to call out the BS at all times. They are going to get burned at the stake sometimes, and sometimes they are going to be uplifted like Christ. But we see a lot of celebrities with the 5-1. They are projected upon. Nobody knows truly what's going on within. And the more trauma someone has, the more they're going to project that onto that 5th line. Like, oh, you didn't call me back because you hate me. And it's like, no, actually, part of you hates yourself, and you're projecting that onto them in this moment. So it's a really, 5th lines really put that mirror up, not in the same way a reflector does, but they'll really show you what you're needing to be working on just by your own attitude coming out in their aura. And so those left angles have an ability to shift you on the right track. If you're a right angle, they'll call that stuff out. They'll help guide you back into a better track that's better decisions, less karma, less cleanup, because they're like, we don't want to clean this up anymore. And they also bring forth the message and hope of what's to come in the future and the best way that we can be.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so what about the motivation? When you and I
Yeah.
were talking before, you were talking about motivation. So like, what are the types kind of motivation, and maybe a little bit about some interesting things that you like in that area of human design.
Yeah. And I mentioned to you what's helped me the most that I've learned about myself beyond the authority. The next thing is motivation. The most helpful thing. And it is how it sounds. How are we motivated? And we're each motivated by 6 different types of energy. And at any time, those 6 different types can go to their opposites end of the spectrum. And that's what's called the distraction. So we have our motivation, and our distraction, or transference is what human design will call it. And this is the subtle color is what it's called. That's underneath your sun sign. So the cross that you carry, that sun sign, the very first number that you see on that cross, there's a slight color underneath it. And that is what the motivation is. So it is a part of your incarnation across. It's a part of how you operate and move around the world. And what where you can find that typically is on a more in-depth human design chart website. Not all of them offer it. So I would be wary if you're going on a regular chart site, you're not going to see the motivation. I know Neutrino Design app, it offers a lot of information, and it will offer that motivation on there. Besides that, you may not be able to tell unless you're looking at those little numbers on the top right corner. The arrow, sometimes those will include the numbers, and then you'll have to just go through and math it out. it's best to just ask a reader if you don't know, and sometimes they'll give it for free. But the motivation is kind of how it sounds, is how we are motivated. And what's we got into is a weird side of human design, and that's how each one of those motivations attract a certain spectral being. So we have angels, demons, gods, aliens, and ghosts. And I'm missing one, and the entities, which I consider that doesn't give too much description, but I think they're like fairies and the jinn. So the entities. And throughout people's life, not everybody, but a lot of people may have an encounter that shifts them on a completely different trajectory. Them or as left angles, we talked about their families too, included in that complete what just happened, a shift in trajectory, and then their lives are changed forever and they are on a different path. So those are called the encounters, and that's actually how human design came to be, is Ra had an encounter with an entity, and it was said that entities specifically, they need a plant or an animal to help connect, and he had a dog with him, and that's how the voice came through for those 8 straight days that he was, they say, penetrated. They want to make it sound like as invasive as possible, where that voice just overwhelmingly came through. It wasn't anything super special about him. It was like right place, right time, right vessel, right energy, right messenger, because he was a 5th line. So I said, they're messengers here. They're here to impact other people, help clean up other people's karma. He was a white man. So specifically for him and the people in America, where he brought this information to mainly to help clean up the karma. And so a lot of people will hate on him and his story a little bit, but who better than someone who needs to clean up a lot of karma? And that was his 5th line purpose and his 5th line nature. And that's how the message came through. It was through that voice. He's actually desire motivated, which attracts ghosts. But in that moment, he attracted an entity, which is 5th line guilt, which is here to fix things. And so 5th energy guilt motivation. So it was here to fix things. So the voice came through to help fix karma and the crap that was going on. Yeah.
And so what are some of the other types of motivations that people could be?
So we start with fear. Fear is the first motivation that someone has. When someone has a fear motivation, it is a little bit how it sounds. It can be very like fearful of what's going to happen, but it is more like survival motivated. Like, how are we going to figure this out? It is a bit more solitary. It will figure things out on its own before asking for help from others. It is motivated to figure it out and to get that foundation. The second one we have is hope. They are motivated like how it sounds. Sometimes it is that hope that somebody else is going to come in and save or fix. And that offer of hope, not needing to be the one to come in and fix it, or not being the one to have to offer that savior energy, but offering hope to someone, is sometimes the thing that sets things in motion. Then we have desire. Those are our leaders to get what you want. If you find yourself going off into the nay side a bit, dabbling in drugs with the desire people, if you find yourself just kind of getting out of the action, the heat of things, you may be in your not self. You may find yourself very resistance in the air, frustrated, all the whatever you are. It's going to be that not self sense, the bitterness, the frustration, the anger. Desire people are here to lead, and they're here to kind of focus in and lock in. That's your guys' term on what they want. And they help lead other people to what they want, to lead other people to what they want, but also what is needed and what's wanted. It's leadership energy. The 4th is need, and is so much how it sounds. It can be very needy. So I have a kid with this need motivation, and it will speak up when there is a need that needs to be met. But it's not just about your personal needs with need motivation. It has a lot to do with the community and the people around you, and inviting other people to have those needs to be met. So it's not just about meeting your own needs. It's really about other people meeting those needs. And how can we have this group effort come in to where those needs can be met? What is needed? Focusing on the priorities. When you find yourself getting lost and figuring things out, or lost in fear, you're in the resistance. It's about the priorities first. Let the other details figure themselves out. Get to those priorities, and then it will flow. The 5th is guilt. That's where we get our fixers. So hope is sitting there. I hope someone fix it. Guilt is like, I'm here. I will do it. All of you guys, like it's not always a nice guilt. It's kind of sometimes like, oh, are you serious again? But they're here to fix it. They have that sense and that motivation to make things right again. If you are a guilt motivated person and you find yourself hoping that someone else is going to come in and save the day and things are not moving in your favor, you've got the energy to fix it. You've got the juice inside of you to set the fixing in motion. Someone else may hear what you have to say and that shifts it in, but whatever it is, that guilt is motivated to get it fixed and get it done. The sixth one is innocence. Innocence is kind of how it sounds too. It is not motivated. There's no agenda behind it. There's no trying. There's no locking in and being like, if I do this, then I'll get this. If I go after this and meet this goal, then I'll have this perfect thing. And then I'll get everything that I want. The opposite of innocence is desire. So we want to stay away from locking in and trying to lead other people and telling them what to do and trying to say, if we all just did it this way, then life would be perfect. The more we focus in on ourselves as innocence motivated people, the more the world changes. The more we hone back in on what do we want as our own innocent people. We're not trying to lead anybody, not trying to maneuver things to get what we want, but truly just sitting in that energy of like, we know what we want. Let it come. Let it come to me. Like, I know what I want. Like, this is a perfect example. In a sense, this is a perfect example of how that happened. I never forced anything. I never, please, like, let's do it. It truly was like just response. Me in response as a generator. Ooh, did you know that Malachi does the gate 49? How interesting. And that response leading to, would you want to come on the pod? That's exactly what I wanted. Like, I wanted that. But me messaging you would have felt invasive. Me going after that and locking in, you locking in and going after that was exactly what was needed. It was exactly how this would have flowed. And look how it flowed perfectly. The exact day, the exact time, all of it lining up. That's innocence. Don't lock. If you find yourself locking in or trying too hard, step back into just being.
Wow. And so you mentioned, even though we were supposed to do this in 2022 on a TikTok live, now is the perfect time.
Yep.
But also a big, like, kind of spark of this coming back was like what you talked about with the malachite. So you shared with me something that I've never heard before, which is that each of the gates is connected to a crystal, a stone, a mineral, something in that kingdom, as well as animal kingdom. So can you talk about, like, what is that? How are you supposed to use it? If it's open or closed, are you supposed to be using the crystal? Is it with the transits?
Oh, yeah. So this did come through Gene Keys. So if you're not finding this in human design, it's because it's in the Gene Keys, and that's something Richard Rudd brought forth. But it is so true for me. I have never had more synchronicities than when it came to the crystals and stones, because that's kind of what I first got into before even being introduced to human design. We were doing angel numbers in the stones. So it's like when I see all these numbers and then I see that the stones start correlating with these numbers, I'm like, oh my gosh. Each mineral and stone, it doesn't include every single one, obviously, but it includes some of the core ones. Like this ammonite is the gate 53, that malachite's the 49. And you will notice when you are being given these stones, possibly, that it correlates with the same energy of that gate. The 49 is all about relationships, getting those emotional needs finally being met. It is revolutionary, because it's a part of your cross of revolution. So there are key aspects of these stones that can help activate those gates within you. So when we see those hanging gates and they're not connected to a channel, they're called dormant. These stones, in my opinion, and wearing them can help activate them in a more healed state, because they're going to be activated no matter what throughout your life. Your mom, your dad's going to have the same gate, or the other side, it's going to get activated. And it may not be in the best way. It may be in a very traumatic way. So I do think that these stones and these gems, whatever, are tools to help heal those energy centers within us and help open us up. And that's why we see when you're going through something that is life-changing, marriage healing, we are given these stones, we're given rocks, we naturally gravitate towards them in the spiritual community. And I truly believe it's because they activate and help heal those parts of our DNA that have been locked and wounded.
Wow. So just some of the things that had stuck out to me when you had sent me the information about the crystals. One, I have my Moldavite.
Yeah,
And then one of the things that you had mentioned was this kind of pairing of the Moldavite and the Herkimer diamond. And it's funny because my
yeah,
friend Colby has a crystal store named Gemsy, and she sent me one of those last year. So it's interesting that you were talking about how those two create a
yeah.
channel, and it's interesting that people have kind of started just naturally putting them together on jewelry.
Yeah, and I did read I think they have the Herkimer listed somewhere else, but it is the diamond that's the 25, and I still think, like, whatever, it is still that pairing with the Moldavite, and it creates the channel of initiation, spiritual initiation. It's the shaman and the priestess channel. This is the dark night of the soul. This is people's
Mhm.
giant awakening that shifted their complete life for whatever way. These are the band-aids being ripped off. These are those moments people say that they prayed to the angels and the angels were so emotionally inept that they just like, oh, okay, then car crash. So you get a new car. And it's like, no, that's not the best way. That's kind of the Moldavite diamond energy together. The fact that they were paired together, in my opinion, it was like, and the timing that was the heat of the pandemic, wasn't it? Like, everyone was going through it. So it was really like, and if you were even around people that held that Moldavite, what's so interesting about that gate 25 too is it is in everything. So gate 25 is the spirit of the self. It is in this piece of plastic that is on my floor. Like, it is in everything. The spirit is everywhere in everything, expressing itself in all different kinds of ways. So when you bring Moldavite into any space ever, it's activating spirit all around you. It is activating stuff. I wouldn't even be surprised if someone had a Moldavite and that night something moved in their room. Like, that type of woo woo is where I'm headed with that. So to see it paired during that time period definitely indicated everyone was going through a very deep spiritual initiation, whether they knew what that meant for them or not. Everyone was going through it. And some people were bearing the tools to start the engines of it. And that's the Moldavite carriers, to me, is like they were the ones helping usher that in. Like, oh, you thought you were going to hide from the spiritual initiation? Nice to meet you. And with left angles, especially, which is so interesting, they say that people don't even have to talk to you to get that shift in karma, to get that you're in your aura. It's around your personality. So for me, it's personal because I have 4 sons, and all of them are right angles except my son, who's quadriplegic and nonverbal. And he impacts every single person
Mhm.
in his aura. They are all impacted in whatever way it is, like whether it's in judgment, whether they project onto him that he's not as intelligent as he is because he's not speaking and not moving like they think he should be, or whether it's in pure joy and innocence of like, this vessel of pureness is making me rethink my life right now, which has happened. And so we see that a lot in left angle. So the fact that you wear that Moldavite, and he also has this gate 51 too in his design. So it's another interesting thing. But the fact that you wear it in your left angle just proves to me that a lot of people were here ushering in that spiritual initiation. At the same time, it was moving through us. They were having tools that kind of symboled it in, like, yep, this is happening.
Wow, it's so beautiful, and it's also like the crystals, it's seeming too like the crystals that people are kind of naturally drawn to are, like you said, sometimes completing that channel for them. Or,
Yeah.
for me, my favorite is, I mean, I have so many crystals and most of them have all been gifted to me. And I have a lot of selenite. My husband has a lot of selenite. Like, we have selenite everywhere because we both love it so much. And so then I saw that that's the sixth gate. And then him and I both have that undefined.
Isn't he in the
And
military? The sixth is the
Mhm.
military gate too.
Oh,
It's all about
wow.
the military, and like we see a lot of people who are sergeants or like a part of a duo with the sixth gate, the gate of friction. So that's interesting. You mentioned the sixth.
It's funny, he is a sergeant.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying. Like, when you start seeing those little coincidences, it's like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, if they don't like the gene keys or not, like, I'm finding truth in it. I'm going to read this and I'm going to hold on to these truths, and I'm going to find what I need to find out of it because it is so connected. Like how would I know that? I'm sitting here mentioning, oh, that it's a sergeant. Like it is so specific that you can't deny it.
Right. And what's so interesting too is after, I kind of get more into the gates because, I'm really going like slow and methodical first, like self-study because, you know, part of my thing in the gene keys is, and I guess I've always known this. That's the stuff when you like get that information from either human design or gene keys, it feels like, oh, well, yeah, of course, this is the way that shows up in my life. And
Yeah.
for gene keys, it says that like, eventually that like it says like it's like a very astute mind, and then eventually the mind gets to a point where it's like, oh, it realizes all of this stuff that it's been learning is to help other people and not really for myself, which is interesting how I kind of digest a lot of information, spew it out, and then I'm like, I'm not interested in it anymore. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, and that's such a left angle thing, and the Gene Keys won't really mention angles and stuff like that as much, but it will get into, the lines in depth, and that's probably where you saw that, and it is like that, like, you'll get all this information, especially for 6 lines, like, your whole life is trial and error to become a role model. Who was that modeling? Who are you modeling for if not everyone else? Like, we wish it was just us, like, making the mistakes for ourselves and we could just hide in them. But no, like I have to tell people like I messed up. I messed this up. I got that wrong. And it used to be a lot harder, but when I found out that I was a 6 line and I'm a 3-6, so I'm like double the mistakes, triple the mistakes. I The more I started speaking on the mistakes that I made and the more I own them, the more wisdom I gained and the more satisfaction came to my generator self, the more things I got brought to me to respond to that lit me up. So I had to own the shame, own the mistakes, but it really is like it's not for me. I have to share them. I have to talk about them because someone else needs to hear it.
Mhm. And this is what I really love about what you bring to human design because, a lot of these things when I read it like are vague. Like you read the description of something and it's so vague and I'm kind of like that could
Mhm.
be anybody could put themselves in that. But then when I hear you really implementing it and it's integrated information and it's interesting examples that actually relate to real life, it makes me see these things more because, what you said in the beginning about the open centers or undefined centers kind of
Yeah.
being like the wisdom. So for me, only having the undefined emotional center, I see that like with my work online, it was very easy for me to kind of whatever, like blow up from sharing and I have all these defined centers. So I'm like, here's how you break down. This is the Antichrist.
Yeah.
This is 5D. This is timelines. This is aliens. This is dimensions. And that was all great. But really, the most impactful stuff was when I started talking about like personal healing, personal wounds after doing ayahuasca, after going to Monroe Institute, after going to these
Yeah.
things that really like cracked open emotional stuff. That's where
Mhm.
I get, like, the most fulfilling feedback from people, even though it's way less. So, like, the other stuff is, like, tons of comments, but it's really just, like, surface level stuff or triggering people or people arguing
Mhm.
about it. Then when I share, like, my emotional turmoils and feelings that I've had growing up or, like, things around like self-worth or love or relationships, that's really where I've noticed that I'm like, damn, that's where people like hit you with like that really helped me to understand something about myself or that's what I needed to hear today.
Mhm.
So it's interesting, it's that open center is oftentimes kind of portrayed as a weakness in these descriptions, but what
Mhm.
you've described, it helps me to, like, click that I'm like, "Well, no, actually, when I talk about the emotional stuff is when I find that I have the most meaningful impact, even if it's to a smaller
Yeah.
amount of people."
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the personal, because I feel like that's why readers so good because they'll weave in your whole story with that open emotional center. So not only are you emotionally wise, you have that emotional intelligence that you've been able to gain over time. You can kind of sense when people are being too reactive or too repressive in their nature, and you can kind of help them get to that even keel. The personal thing is what we mentioned in our conversation yesterday, the perspective. I feel like your personal perspective is so needed for other people. They need to see things from your personal, very selfish, self-centered, like all the things that people like to hate on view. it needs to be very personal. I think that's something I honed in on, was the politics with personal people, how they are not meant to be viewing that kind of stuff. And that is going to, in this day and age, would ruffle a lot of feathers. But one of the people I work with is a personal view, and it's like, don't even look at it. Don't even look at the news. None of it is helpful for what your personal path is needing to focus in on and what's going to help the people on your fractal. So not only do you have that wisdom from the open emotional center, which you're able to gather in, and it's not just with individual people, you're able to absorb the emotions of the collective at the time too. So you can sense where the collective is at. Are they about to experience a crisis with this? Is this going to cause a crisis? Is this going to cause a new wave of peace among the people? You can kind of sense those kinds of things maybe before they happen, while they're happening, where it's happening, and offer assistance just energetically through that center. So I see your personal view coming in a lot with that open emotional when it comes to what people may be coming to you for. It's that motivation, it's that perspective. And those are a part of those arrows, which they call the four transformations. And it's a huge part of design. It goes over your appetite, your environment, your perspective, and your motivation. And all of those things kind of are the core with your authority of what people are seeking from you and what you're offering to the world. So I see both in what you just described for sure.
Wow. And I learning human design, and I'm still, at the very baby steps of it, is like it's helped me to see other people and the world so differently. Because now when I'm seeing that, like, I have all these defined centers and so much, like my whole thing is so colored in. And I'm like, damn, I think in the past I might have been, when I was younger, not compassionate to other people, and kind of maybe seeing like, well, why can't they just leave that
Yeah.
relationship? Or why can't they just stand up? Or why can't
Mhm.
they just put themselves
And
out
that's
there?
wisdom.
And that's what's so interesting, is that
Yeah.
it's like now, even to like habits and things, one thing, I know that the like gate 5 has to do with like those daily habits and routine
Yeah.
and patterns and kind of enjoying doing something till you get better at it. It is not defined for me. And that's something that, like, say I'll read like Atomic Habits, or you need a daily to-do list, or you need this, and that it just could not work. I have
Yeah.
15, which is the
The
extreme.
dreams.
So I will go and like do 12 hours of work on something, and then I can't look at it for a year.
Yeah.
So, that was
Which
really
is
helpful.
interesting. Your partner, he has the channel, doesn't he? Is what I
He
saw.
has
He has
both,
the whole
yeah.
515. So you guys have a compromise in your composite chart, is what they would call it in human design. So compromise is where one person has the whole thing and the other person only has one side. So in this, you would have to compromise the fact that he's going to have fixed routines and you're not going to, that he may get up at a certain time every day and brush his teeth and eat a meal all at very certain specific times. And yours may look nothing like that. You could stay up till 5 one day and then wake up at 5 a.m. one day. It just is so different for you than it is for him.
That is the biggest personal, struggle, maybe not struggle, but lesson for me right now, is I have never lived in routine. I find it immediately monotonous. Like 3
Mhm.
days doing the same thing, I'm like, "I'm a prisoner." And
Bored.
so, like, it's funny because he is so, and on top of that military, so it's, like, so regimented. So
Mhm.
he does, like, he wakes up at a time that I think is ungodly. I think, like, that is, it's sacrilegious to wake up at that time in the morning
Mhm.
and start doing things, and I'm like, "What do you do for
Yeah.
all those hours in the morning?" And it's like certain things, like, I kinda had, like, when the moon was at that eclipse, I kinda had a meltdown, and I was like, "I can't do this at the same time every day. What?" Like,
Extreme. It went to the ultimate extreme.
that I'm like,
I'm
because
not
something
doing
happened,
it.
yeah, something happened at the
Yeah.
same time 3 days in a row, I'm like, "I can't live like this."
Yeah. No, and it's funny, the gate 5 connects with plants. So, like, the only thing that you may feel can help keep you in that, like, routine space is, like, watering a plant. And even then, you may like, "I need a self-watering plant." Like, the 5 is connected to that nature and the rhythms of plants and just the natural silicles of life. And so I wonder if he likes plants too, like, and is methodical about making sure they're pruned and propped and, like,
Oh my God, it's so funny that you're so tapped in everything you're saying,
yeah,
because that was really the thing for me, was getting plants here that, like, really helped me to kind of, again, be
you
more
got
in that
that channel with the
routine.
plants.
And
You have the
so
whole channel. Yeah.
I have a bunch of them. I like taking care of them. He loves plants. He's not as good at taking care of them, even though, like, every night he's there, like, spraying it,
Yeah.
and it's methodical, but I feel like intuitive, a little bit different. Like, for me, I'm more intuitive with the
The
plant. I can
wisdom.
tell where the plant's at. The plant's happy.
Yeah.
It needs this, it needs that. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting that actually did help me to get more grounded in this very routine type of space, was having all of those plants. So that's such a funny,
Yeah.
specific. And so what
Isn't
about the
it?
animals too, right? Because you sent me, there was crystals and plants,
Mhm.
and then the gates are connected to animals as well. How does that show up?
Yeah, the animal totem. So he also, Richard Rudd also channeled the animal totem codex too, which connects all the animals and the insects and the birds to the gates. And he puts them on these spectrums. So he calls it the shadow and um the gift, and then we have the city, which is like the enlightened part of it, the gate. So he says each one of the gates or the keys has a spectrum, and so on that spectrum he lists an animal, a bird, and an insect on that same one. So sometimes throughout your life, if you see a certain insect, a fly is bothering you or whatever, I will go check and see, what key is that. Is that in the transits right now, and is it something that I need to learn about it that's aggravating me for some reason right now? Or I'll see it, a majestic buffalo or whatever. I'm in Oklahoma. So, and it's like, it connects with a part of me that encourages me to go research it and see, like, okay, this is significant. There's something about it. I got to look it up. And then it's my, like, sun sign. It's like my gate 45 is the buffalo. And it's like, of course it is. Like, of course I bought a buffalo tusk earring. And gate 45 is about buying things. We love a good shopping trip with the gate 45. It's like, give me money to spend. I love it. And I bought these buffalo earrings, so that's one thing, buying something. But the fact that it was buffalo bone earrings that was naturally sourced from Australia, and then I look it up, it's the gate 45. Like, all of those things in combination, when I bought that, it's just like, you can't deny it when you start honing in and you see these signs or whatever. My kid's daddy bought a wolf tooth necklace, and the same time he was doing that, gate 12 was in the transits. Well, we have the other side, which is gate 22, and gate 12 was in the transits of Mars. So the same time he bought the wolf tooth necklace, the same time that Mars was in the gate 12, which is the wolf. So it's like, you'll see the connections. And this is all, I think it's still on the Gene Keys website, but if you just Google the Gene Keys at Animal Totem Codex, it'll bring it up.
Wow. And it's interesting because there's kind of like the animal medicine concept. If it shows up in the world, it has a message for you.
Yeah.
And I could see, like, people also using that with, like, I have a couple of animal decks, like the Kim Kranz one, and also Cara Elizabeth, who
Oh,
I've
yeah.
interviewed. She has an animal apothecary deck. So that could be like another way to kind of see what area of the self needs reflection, is pull the
Yeah.
animal card and see what gate that's connected to.
Oh, yeah. And really, like, all of this is just to get to know ourselves better. And so it's like, the universe, spirit, whatever, they're going to find any way, shape, or form to get the message to you. If you're the type that wants to dive into 12 books and put puzzles together to finally get that message, they're going to make it fun. I feel like, to where you can find that message. Or if it's a butterfly landing on you and all of a sudden it resonates with the butterfly your mom wore or whatever, or it's the Gene Keys and you go research it, and then you come, whatever way to get the message to you, to find out a little bit more about yourself, to heal whatever needs to be healed, is gonna happen. That's why it's like, anytime I hear people get a bit too, like, religious, and they're like, oh, well, that's demonic, or that's this or that, I'm like, God, it's going to find you wherever you're at. It does not matter whether you're in the depths of darkness, dabbling in whatever, or in the height of a guru nation. Like, it is going to find you and it's going to deliver the message in one way, shape, or form. And so I love that Richard Rudd brought the gems and the minerals and the animals into it, because people do receive messages that way. And they needed that connection to the DNA, because that's what each gate and key represents, a part of our DNA. They're connected to the codon wheel. It's all connected. The I Ching is connected to each one of our codons. So what's interesting about the gene keys, if you go look up the keys, it will show you what amino acid is correlated. So I've even helped people with possibly needing to eat more beans, because this amino acid may be a little bit out of whack. And that's, beans have a lot of this amino acid in it. So you can go on the Gene Keys website. This is all free. In their living library, each key is connected to an amino acid, and it goes straight to the cells. So we're doing cellular work here to heal whatever needs to be healed so people can live their best lives. That's it. Like, all of this is to do that. So if it's not Gene Keys or human design for you and it's something else to live your best life, do that. But if you're not happy, healthy, and loving, something's off.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so you use the word demonic, and this sparks the
Oh,
idea
yeah.
for me around the dream sleep version of human design. So
Right.
can you explain that a little bit?
Okay. Yeah. And this is a little bit outside of a lot, some of my studies, but I have dabbled into it. So there's in human design, says when you're sleeping, you're typically a different type than when you're awake. It's not just laying horizontal. When those batteries shut off, you may shift into a different type completely. And most of us, as we're sleeping, are reflectors. So we are absorbing the world around us. And it says that certain activations activate certain things within our body. So there's a light realm, and then there's the demon realm, and I think there's the earth realm. Are you seeing this on Genetic Matrix? Because it will show you your dream rave chart on that.
Uh,
Is that where you saw yours?
I saw it in the human design app. There's like the
Okay.
dream version, and I'm a reflector. So I go from
Oh,
manifesting generator to reflector. Everything's open. And then my husband's a manifesting generator. He turns into a generator when he's asleep.
okay. Oh, that's interesting. So you guys may have to find ways to not co-sleep sometimes to get that energy. Oh, that's interesting. Those topics are interesting with couples in this day and age, but a lot of people are already starting to like, well, a couple nights in this guest room and a couple nights here. So I think it's starting to kick in, but we see that that can intermingle with your energy at night. So when you have activations in the light realm, you may find that a lot of your dreams can contain more prophetic type of lucidity, or well, we see lucid dreams a lot in certain gates. There's certain gates that connect with dreaming too, like gate 61. We see lucid dreamers out the wazoo with gate 61. But in our sleep state, what they said, I'm pretty sure this is what this is. The light realm we get are those kind of what it sounds like. We get those airy type of beautiful dreams, whatever. We're seeing past loved one types of things like that. I saw Jesus and the light beings in one of mine, the plasma beings or whatever, years ago in one of mine, and they were coming from a planet-sized ship. So just out there. And I used to hone in on it. Well, what human design says is that we're not meant to hone in on a lot of these dreams. Some of them are just that. They are just wild rememberings of the world around us being absorbed as we sleep. So some of it can be our own stuff coming up in a story to help heal. So a lot of times our nightmares are reflective of something within us that needs to be healed, and it wants to heal while we're sleeping, because in our waking nature, we're not aware enough to let those stories tell themselves. So it'll play out those worst case scenarios or whatever in order to find itself a healing spot. The demon realm is where we can act out a lot of that aggressive nature, the fight or flight stuff. So when we see people that have a lot of demon realm activations, they typically don't want to eat meat before bed, like anything that can upset. And this is where the digestion in human design can come into play a lot, because it can play into your nightmares or your sleeps a lot, which is obvious. But the demon realm, what they talk about, and it's not that it's evil or anything like that. It can just be chaotic. So we have a chaotic realm where we're seeing a lot of the chaos. And I think the earth one is similar to that too, where we see a lot of the chaotic nature. But I'm pretty sure the demon realm is where we get a bit more of aggressive fight or flight, fear in those dreams. But it is just that. It's like the energy of those gates being expressed however they want in a weird sleep state, but there's typically no meaning and there's no rhyme or reason, and it's not meant to be honed in on. So I mentioned that dream I had. I honed in on it for a while thinking, oh my gosh, the Christians were right. Like, he's coming. And I was like, what does this mean? But it did bring a lot of information to me. I'm not going to say it was all wrong. The plasma beings, there's something about that. And Gene Keys does get into the future human, which I don't know if you want to touch on at all, but
Yes, please.
in human design, the future human is talked about. But when it comes to dreaming, it's typically meant to not be honed in on, and each realm can express itself in this way that it sounds, but it doesn't mean that you're being possessed by demons. It typically means that you have a bit more of an attraction to and a chaotic nature in your dream, which is more fight or flightish or aggressive. And I think
Wow.
people can look into that a little bit more if they want to not take me for Bible, but yeah.
No, I think that was great. I think that was a really good depiction of kind of like what I had seen in the chart of the three categories and different
Yeah.
areas. So let's talk about the future human. What is
Yeah.
that about with the Gene Keys?
So Gene Keys mentions it in a bit more of an uplifting way than human design. Human design definitely seems a bit more apocalyptic and dark about the 2027 shift, and we're coming up on that. And they will talk about the future human. So the reason why human design came from the voice in the first place was for the children that are coming. And it is said that we are going to see a jump in our evolutionary species. A new type of human is coming on board. It's not going to be something that we can visualize right now completely, but I think that we're already seeing what is coming. We're seeing the mixture of AI. There's a lot of fear around that. My nonverbal son gets excited when people mention the Neuralink stuff. And I guess I'm like, I don't know. He gets excited. That's his signature sense. Who am I? Who am I to say what is what? I think that is what we may be seeing, is the tech being infused into the future human. Gene Keys talks about light beings a bit more, and he talks about the process of Christ's death and how in those 3 days it was a chemical transmutation of his physical body into light, and that is not something that is unheard of. We've seen it in other cultures and other places around the world, and that is what our future vehicle is going to look like. The balls of light, the plasma energy, balls of energy, future vehicles. And we've seen it in historical text, the vehicle of Ezekiel, the Metatron's cube, or the Merkaba, however you want to say it, the vehicle of light that is encompassed around certain beings that allows them to maneuver here, there, everywhere. Telepathy coming online, the telepathy tapes. That is something I encourage everyone to listen to if you have not. The Telepathy Tapes podcast is documenting these children, they're in between phases in real time. We're not quite there to that new human yet. And I put quotes because people hate on me a lot for how I talk about this, but it just needs to be said that what we're seeing now in these children who have these extra abilities and they're able to communicate through touch. And that's something that you have. You have touch determination, which means that you are a psychic feeler. You can pick up information through your touch and you can give information through your touch. My nonverbal son is this. If we do not know what's wrong with him, it has never failed that when we sit in silence and he hold his hand, that will come through. It will always come through. It's his butt itching, whatever it is. Oh, that's what it is. And we used to think, oh, it just comes to us. It's him. He's giving that information to us. There is a new language coming online that is not through just our normal voices speaking how I am to you. It is a new form of language, a new form of light that is coming through us, that is activating through our bodies. And we may possibly see a new type of human coming online within these next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long it takes. But human design does talk about 2027 being the first time that these children will be born, and that they will be born in groups of 5, and that their mission here on earth is unlike anybody else's, and they will have extra abilities, and they will need our support because people may want to institutionalize them based off of how they look and how they behave.
Wow. And it's just amazing how that links up with so many other teachings. Like, say, for example, Dolores Cannon with the 3 waves of volunteers. These 3 waves are building up to this like kind of crystal children. And then we have the concept of, indigo children, starseed stuff is like a
Yeah.
precursor to these new children that are coming. And then
A
more
new
in like
race.
the alien. Yeah, in the alien space, it's
Yeah.
more of like the hybrid children are coming. And then it's interesting too, even in the medical science spaces with the autism and how it's
Yeah.
kind of similar with that they're saying these waves that are here now are like precursors for other things.
That's what
And
human design says too about autism. And that's what we're going to see the most of leading up to that, is the shift in our emotional awareness system, which is where we also see people who are typically prone to being autistic. We'll see it in the gate 19 and the gate 49. And that's what's being shifted the most right now, is that those two, the 19 and the 49 in the emotional center, is what's actually going through the biggest mutation right now. And that's where we typically see people who have autism, they'll have one or both or one hanging in the open center. And that's where we see that. And that's what's mutating right now. And so the emotional, it's interesting you mentioned that, because that's like a big thing, a big sign that that's the new children are coming, is the autism.
wow. And it's crazy how it's just like so many different teachings and channelings and things have kind of
Yeah.
all led to the same time frame and this same thing that there's new kids coming.
Yeah.
Even, Dolores talked about in her work, which, a lot of that came through in like the 80s and 90s. She talked about with a lot of these people, like, you guys are laying the foundation so that these
Yeah.
kids are not institutionalized, so that when they can't communicate, you allow them to communicate in new ways, which again kind of goes back to the telepathy tapes. And
Yeah.
even, some of the prophecies, the Dolores Cannon Nostradamus stuff, they talk about that some of those Nostradamus prophecies are about new types of communication coming in that are more telepathic between humans.
Yeah. Yep. And I see that. Yeah, you see it. You see it in all these different texts talking about the same thing. And then you see it in the children. Like, if you're around children and you have one conversation with them, like, you can see that it's different. It's different now. And I'm not saying that these autism never existed. We saw it all throughout history sporadically. We had random, it was more sporadic. It's not going to be like that anymore. It's not going to look the same anymore. And we are seeing these systems that have to be completely bulldozed. All of them have to crumble, and it's going to look kind of scary because it's uncomfortable. What they said is happening is that we were in what was called the cross of planning for all those hundreds of years, and now we're shifting into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So we're truly that, and it's saying the
Mm.
sleeping phoenix in itself is enough. Like, we're truly going through something that we've never gone through before as a species, rising from the ashes, becoming something new, rebirthing. And what was the energy before was all about the family planning, the bargains, the deals, the support systems, you have to get married, you have to have children, and we have to have money to create these systems, these hospitals and schools and all the things. And it's going to be completely different after that. And it may not be in our lifetime completely, because we're still dwindling out, but it could. I don't know exactly
Mhm.
how that's going to look, but we're seeing children now refusing to do school the same way, refusing. My son won't sit still in class. So his teachers are, thankfully, they are seeing that people need to be supported as the individual selves that they are. So he's able to just do his regulating, and he rocks back and forth. It's his thing. So it's like, people are going to have to adapt, or they are not going to make it. Their
Mm.
bodies aren't going to allow them to do it. The more that they go against their authority and they go against their motivation, what they're here to be doing, the more that they're not going to make it. And the more that they don't support these children coming in, the more their bodies aren't going to allow them to stay here to do it. Because that's the main focus, is what they're saying. Like, the children coming in, the whole reason why human design is here is for us to help them, for us to be
Mhm.
healed, for them to come through, not for us to be the best we can be. That's great, but it is for them. in
Wow.
hindsight. So yeah, just interesting. And it came to me at the best timing. Like I said, I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. I needed the information. I needed to know. I could feel it. I knew something was going on with my son the moment I had him. We knew something was different, and science came back later to tell us, oh, he's got a very rare gene mutation. Only 100 people in the world have this gene mutation. Then I read human design. It's going to be a gene mutation. It's going to be through the gate 60 and the gate 3. He has gate 3. I have gate 60. This just doesn't lie. Like, it just is what it is. It's just facts being presented, and you can't deny it when you're living it.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So I have many more things that I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
And as I get deeper into human design, I would love to have you back and more that I have maybe even better questions to ask. But the last thing I want to ask you about, because this leads into that, and it's one of my questions, is around parenting. Because one of the things as I was looking into like the splenic center, that makes a huge difference in parenting. So like, what I had read and came across is that like a child who has an open spleen has a very different immune system than a defined spleen. And then
Yeah.
also they find their security from the parent sometimes. But sometimes if the parent is maybe unhealed, like you're saying, then they can almost find that security in like an abusive behavior or a narcissistic parent, and then carry that pattern throughout their life. So can you talk a little bit about how to use human design and gene keys for parenting?
Oh, yeah. That's specifically what you mentioned with the spleen is incredibly helpful for everyone to know. This has been something I've used in my own parenting with the spleen, because you're right. With someone who has an open spleen, I have an open spleen, they may not handle medication the same way someone who has a defined spleen would. So in our home, defined spleens are typically the ones who get more vaccinated than the open spleens. The open spleens are less inept to taking medication to heal themselves. Defined spleens are. Defined spleens are more washing their hands, doing the antibacterial stuff. Defined spleens are not. Our open spleens are not. Open spleens are more up to picking their nose and eating it. Defined spleens are not. It's weird, but it is like they are gaining intuition and wisdom for their immune system to process things on their own. And defined spleens are a bit more. That's where we see a lot of defined spleens in as doctors, because they are very instinctually aware of the cleanliness, the needs that need to be met within that institution. That's where we get our vaccines and stuff like that. They have that instinct of what needs to be done. The open spleens are where we see a lot of our healers, our Reiki practitioners, our energy workers, because they're taking in what isn't seen, and then they're processing it like, oh yeah, they have a cold, but that cold stemmed from a childhood bully who ended up doing this, and then it manifests as a cold later on, and then all of a sudden that cold releases, or they bring up a past life or something, or not even that, they just have that intuition there that's a bit more practical. So yeah, for parenting, it has helped me in every way. The digestion, being able to honor my kids and the environment in which they eat was huge. Some of my kids need to be watching TV or have some sort of stimulation while eating, or they will not digest their food properly. Some of them need to have it completely quiet. Some people need to eat in the dark at night. Some people need to eat in the daytime at light, indirect and direct lighting. So things like that help parents tremendously, because there's no bedtimes with indirect people. Their bedtime's out the window. Like, you have to find who your kid is and help encourage them, or else you're going to be stuck in the doctor's office. You're going to be stuck doing crappy things that you don't want to be doing because your kid is sick, or just experiencing a child being sick, period. That's kind of what we see happen when these things aren't encouraged and seen. So yeah, I would say, if you're looking into your child's design, look at those 4 transformations: the environment, the digestion, the most, see what they're living, how they're living, if that's something that they're doing, and then kind of get into that authority. But the environment and digestion for parents, I feel like, is one of the most helpful things. Open centers for sure, because you can see where your kid's very vulnerable and very defined, and where they're gaining wisdom. But when you know their digestion and their environment, you can set them up for life just with those.
Mm. Oh, it's gorgeous, beautiful. So I love the way that this conversation came to, that topic of the new children, adapting for the new children. And so also, I'm sure maybe some people after hearing this, I know that you do personal readings, but then, I mean, if someone wanted to do a reading for like their family situation or
Oh,
helping with the
yeah.
child, then that's something else that you could help them with too, right?
Yeah, and what I do is I just do time slots. So whatever you want to talk about in that amount of time, I'm gonna talk. I'm a Gemini all the way around. Like I'm gonna talk about whatever topic you want to bring in, and I'm open. So if you want to do family charts, if you want to do composite charts, we could do it all. I love seeing the family dynamics because when you get into more than 4 people, you get 5, you get in human design what's called the penta. And so it's a completely new being within itself. And that's actually what is coming with the children. Why they're coming in groups of 5 is because they're coming in a penta. And
Wow.
so they're going to be, so you'll see like if there's one born at a hospital, you'll see 4 more at that same hospital is kind of what they're saying, or they'll find ways to group up, but they're grouping up in a penta to create their own kind of being. So when you see larger families, they create a different dynamic than if they were individuals in that dynamic less than 5 people. So yeah, family dynamics are really fun, and I do them just hourly slots. And you can find me on Instagram. All the links are there, or TikTok or whatever.
Amazing. And it's Mama Marisha. And
Yeah.
thank you so much. This has been so
Yeah.
helpful, so awesome. And like I said, I'm excited to do it again when I even go deeper, and then I'll have even better questions to be able to ask you. But amazing stuff that you shared. Like I really feel like you cleared up a lot of things around human design that I've found to be pretty vague.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this. So yeah, anytime you want to have me back to talk more when you get to those little layers that you want some more information on, you think I might have, I'm all there.
Thanks for listening to Ultra Minds with JK Ultra, where every Thursday we come out with a new interview interviewing some of the greatest minds in spirituality, consciousness, aliens, conspiracies, astrology, and so much more. And make sure you check out my Tuesday Night Live every Tuesday night, where I do a live stream and we do a Q&A and we go a deep dive into topics like the simulation theory, shadow work, spiritual bypassing, spiritual gurus turned cult leaders, aliens, my own experiences, and so much more. So make sure you subscribe, put on notifications, and if you would like to support my work, you can also become a subscriber to my Substack, which is $11 a month at jennifercarmody.substack.com. And once a month for our paid subscribers, we do a live event where we do a group hypnosis, a group meditation, or a group manifestation exercise. And thank you so much. Make sure that you subscribe, comment, do all the things, all the YouTube stuff.